Alwyn, thanks for joining me today, fresh off the back of some important recent announcements for BCI. I'd like to start, if I may, with last week's news. The BCI's flagship Mardie Salt and Potash project has been granted major project status by the federal government, thereby formally recognising Mardie as a project of national significance. What does this endorsement mean for BCI, and how will major project status contribute towards Mardie's development?
Thank you, Alex. Yes, this is certainly an exciting development for BCI, and we are pleased that Mardie has been acknowledged in this way. It's also important to reflect that there has not been a project of this nature for more than 20 years in Australia. There's, very often announcements around gold, iron ore, and even lithium projects. But Mardie is a relatively unique project in the Australian industry. So the major project status is really strong endorsement from the federal government, that Mardie can play a big role in the regional context of the Pilbara and contribute to the export potential of Australian products into the future.
I also noticed BCI released a very robust DFS for the Mardie project in July. For those new to the BCI story, can you take us through some of the key headline results from that DFS?
Yes, the DFS results very encouraging to BCI and the board of BCI. The main headlines of the DFS really include it's a large-scale project, 4.4 million tonnes per annum of solar salt, will be the largest salt operation in Australia. It's a very sustainable operation. It uses seawater. It can have a 100-year life. It uses wind, natural wind and sun energy to drive the production process. It can produce quality products. We've done significant test work during the DFS, and we produced high-quality salt and SOP fertilizer. The cost estimates of the project, the operating cost, will be very competitively on a global scale. And most importantly for investors, it will have a very strong cash flow. It could deliver $20 billion of cash flow over the 100 years of operation, or $200 million per annum EBITDA.
Can you elaborate on the project's green credentials? Why is this significant?
In terms of the green credentials, the project, as I said, will use natural seawater as the input resource. It will, at the same time, use natural sun and wind energy. A study done by KPMG for us during the DFS period indicate that 99.9% of the energy required to produce these two products will be derived from this natural energy source. So we are very encouraged that over time we will have a vision to convert to renewable solar energy, which could make the project 100% from natural and renewable energy sources. The third aspect which makes Mardie sustainable is the fact that we are the only salt project that will use waste salt liquid to produce sulfate of potash fertilizer right there at the site. So, this is aligned with the Western Australian government's vision over the last 3 decades that, mining companies should do more on secondary processing. Well, we are doing just that at Mardie.
Thanks, Alwyn. Now, just taking a step back, salt is a commodity that some investors here in Australia may not be too familiar with. What sort of dynamics are at play with the global salt market, and what markets will Mardie be looking to supply?
Yes, the salt market is very wide and very deep. Salt goes into more than 10,000 end products, and demand is highly correlated with global and regional industrial activity and consumer activity. There's a 0.97% correlation between GDP growth and salt demand growth. So for us, the Asian chemical industry is the main target. And in those industries, very important intermediary products are being manufactured from salt as a major input material. So we feel confident about the demand for the salt going forward. Obviously, on the sulfate of potash fertilizer, it's more commonly known in the market to many people using that as a fertilizer in their gardens or on crops. We also feel there's a strong market thematic there for the future demand growth.
Now, shifting focus to the other key pillar of BCI's business, you recently reported record annual royalty earnings from the Iron Valley mine, which is operated by Mineral Resources. Can you provide us with the headline numbers from the financial year for 2020 and what's the outlook like there?
Yes, sure, Alex. So Iron Valley is obviously a mine that came from the iron ore holdings days into BCI. And it is the gift that has kept on giving for BCI over the last 5 years. FY20, the last financial year, was a record year for BCI. And that royalty generated $23 million EBITDA from the 6 million tons per annum shipments in the financial year. So that was a fantastic result for BCI going forward. We normally don't issue guidance for the Iron Valley formally, but with the current very positive iron ore prices, we believe FY21 could be another very positive year for BCI from that royalty.
Now, Alwyn, looking ahead, BCI has flagged several important milestones that you'll be working towards over the coming months. A couple of things here. Firstly, how does BCI plan to resource this increased level of activity? And what are some of the key deliverables to look out for?
Yes, Alex, a few very important months. Normally companies get it wrong during these last 6 months before construction commences. So very important period for BCI. Our delivery model involves an owner's team with construction and salt expertise and then supported by external project management engineers. So the team that we are currently recruiting will include more salt expertise and more construction expertise. We are building the team gradually, made 7 appointments over the last 2 months, and we are feeling really confident that we have the right owners team taking shape in BCI. The key milestones in the next few months will include advancing our funding strategy. We are having detailed discussions and due diligence is underway with the North Australian Infrastructure Facility and then a number of Australian and international banks. Our aim is to secure debt commitments from these parties before the end of this year. The second very important milestone is achieving environmental approvals. We are nearing the end of the public review process now for Mardie, and we are aiming for EPA endorsement by late 2020.
Thanks, Alwyn. Really appreciate you joining me. All the best with what looms as a defining period for BCI, and hopefully we'll chat soon. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Alex.